Hey there, and welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving into something that is a deeply personal, yet incredibly common milestone for so many families, and that is the transition of downsizing. But listen, we are not just talking about packing up a bunch of boxes and moving into a smaller condo somewhere. We're actually looking at a totally innovative concept that flips the script entirely. Imagine using the proceeds from downsizing your primary home to fund a brand new, shared chapter for your family. If the idea of a multi-generational build piques your curiosity, well, you are absolutely in the right place. Let's get into it. So could downsizing actually help two generations at once? It's a question a lot of homeowners, especially in places like the South Suburbs, have really been chewing on lately. When it's finally time to sell that longtime family home, what happens to the money? We so often think of downsizing as this solitary journey, scaling back for just one or two people. But what if those proceeds could benefit more than one generation at the exact same time? Could a home sale actually help both you and your adult children build a much more connected future? All right, let's jump right into section 1, the multi-generational ADU solution. To make this kind of multi-generational shift a reality, we're looking at a very specific and increasingly popular housing solution. So, what on earth is an ADU? Well, an accessory dwelling unit is basically a small, totally self-contained home that sits right there on the exact same lot as a larger primary house. Think of it as a house behind a house. For older homeowners weighing their downsizing options, an ADU offers something that a standard apartment or even a 55-plus community sometimes really struggles to provide, and that is the absolute perfect balance. You get the proximity to your family without sacrificing a single ounce of your personal privacy. You get to be 5 minutes away from your loved ones instead of 5 hours away, while still having a front door that locks and a space that is 100% yours. Now, what makes these spaces so compelling is just their sheer versatility. You've probably heard them called other things, right? Coach houses, granny flats, or in-law suites. But the defining feature here is complete independence. We are talking about the whole shebang. A space with its very own kitchen, its own bathroom, and its own private entrance. In fact, AARP notes that homeowners can either convert an existing structure, like maybe an old detached garage, or they can build one completely fresh from the ground up. It's entirely tailored to what your property allows and what your family actually needs. Moving right along to Section 2, One Family's Downsizing Story. Let's ground all this in reality for a second and talk about a homeowner named Barbara from Flossmoor. For 31 years, Barbara lived in a large 4-bedroom home. Her kids were fully grown, the grandkids were getting older, and she found herself constantly heating rooms that literally nobody ever used, all while dealing with yard work she was just completely tired of. Sound familiar? Then, an idea sparked. Just look at this transformation. Barbara sold her house and used part of those proceeds to build a custom ADU right behind her son's home. She traded decades of accumulated unnecessary space and heavy maintenance for a customized, smaller footprint with zero yard work. Oh, and a 5-minute walk to her grandkids' bedtime stories. She found a space that actually fits the life she is living right now. That brings us to Section 3, Funding and Financial Realities. It's such a wonderful story, right? But you're probably wondering, how do families actually pay for these backyard cottages? Well, this is the number that really catches people's attention. When selling a primary residence, you can trigger capital gains taxes, but there are some pretty significant exclusions. According to the IRS, single filers can exclude up to $250,000 in gain from the sale of a primary residence. The general rule of thumb here is that you need to have owned and lived in that home for at least 2 of the 5 years right before you sell. And get this, if you are a married couple filing jointly, that IRS exclusion amount jumps to up to $500,000. So the absolutely crucial point here is that these tax exclusions directly shape how much money actually remains in your pocket after your home sale. That remaining amount, that is exactly what often funds a project like an ADU. Now, because building costs vary wildly based on your finishes, the size, or whether it's a completely new build, I have a golden rule for you. Talk with a CPA or tax professional early. Doing this before your first sales sign even hits the front lawn is so important. It ensures that your financial expectations match reality, and it guarantees that there are absolutely no surprises when you finally get to the closing table. Let's look at Section 4, Navigating Local Zoning Rules. Okay, once the financials are all sketched out, we really have to talk logistics because unfortunately, you can't just drop a house in any backyard you please. For example, the town of Homewood already permits accessory dwelling units through its zoning ordinance. Several other communities allow them too, or they're actively considering them as more and more families request the option. But make no mistake, local standards completely dictate the reality of your project. They regulate things like the maximum size of the unit, the parking requirements, and even whether the primary property owner must actually live on site. Because of these really strict local regulations, there is a very specific order of operations you've got to follow to save yourself months of frustration. Step 1. Call your local municipality. Step 2. Confirm the zoning laws for your specific lot. Step 3. Only then do you choose a floor plan. I cannot stress this enough. Do not fall in love with a beautiful architectural design or hire a builder before you've made that first phone call to the city. Not every design fits every zoning code, for sure. Which brings us to our final part, Section 5, Is this right for you? We've covered the what, the how, and the where, but the real question we need to ask is this actually right for you? Well, we are certainly seeing a rapidly growing trend. According to the National Association of Realtors, multi-generational home buying reached an all-time high last year. Look at this. Roughly 17% of all home purchases involved more than one generation living under the exact same roof. And this isn't just happening in a vacuum. It's not a random fad. Families are being driven toward these creative living arrangements by rising housing costs, increasing caregiving needs, and honestly, just a fundamental desire to stay connected. Arrangements that might have seemed highly unusual a decade ago are now becoming a primary go-to strategy for families who are just looking out for each other. But for an ADU to truly succeed, certain conditions have to be met. It's not for everyone. It requires enough home equity, a favorable location, and above all else, a genuine desire for closeness, not just a feeling of obligation. Because moving 5 minutes away solves a very different problem than moving 2 states away, right? Open communication is everything here, especially since adult children are often balancing their own households with the logistics of a parent's move. Plus, you want to make sure you're still a favorable distance to your existing community and friends. I want to leave you with this thought because I just love this idea. Downsizing does not have to mean pulling away from family. Sometimes it means building something totally new together, right there in a backyard nobody had even considered until the idea clicked into place. Just like Barbara, you don't have to lose your independence. You might just be building a smaller, perfectly tailored version of it 5 minutes closer to the people you love most in the world. As you explore this at your own pace, remember there are some really great free resources out there, like the Homeowner's 50+ page, to help guide you along the way. And while this explainer is meant for educational purposes, so please remember it's not formal tax or financial advice, I do want to leave you with this one provocative thought to reflect on. If downsizing doesn't have to mean moving away, what is your next fully customized chapter going to look like?